Hi everybody. Today we're going to learn about Gigaspace's data grid. You've got the Management Console already open in the browser. We're going to switch to the data grids view. You see we have one data grid already deployed. It's called Demo Data Grid. It's actually a cluster composed of two partitions. There's one primary and one backup in each partition amounting to a total of 4 instances. There are currently no entries in the space. When we switch to the types, we see that there are no types pre-registered in the space. Let's drill down. And you'll see that there is actually one primary and one backup in each partition. We have here partition 1, primary and backup, as well as partition 2, primary and backup, with no entries in any of them. Now, let's switch to the code. You see that we have a POJO called user. It has 3 fields, 3 properties, with getters and setters for each of them. Those are standard getters and setters. We have Gigaspace's annotations, so the ID property is actually the space ID, which means it is a primary key. And the space routing controls which partition it routes to. We also see that the username is indexed to give faster queries performance. Let's look at the program code. We have a main. It connects to the demo data grid space. It writes 10 entries to the data grid, and then the application reads those 10 entries from the space. Connection is pretty simple. You take the space name at the connection prefix. You add some configurants, which can be customized for custom behavior. We won't go into this in this session. To write an entry, simply create an instance of the object, populate its properties, and call Gigaspace's .write operation to write the entry. Reading entries is pretty simple as well. For example, call Gigaspace's .read by ID operation with 7 to read user number 7. Another example, to read users whose ID is between 3 and 5, call Gigaspace's .read multiple with an appropriate SQL query. Finally, to read all users, call Gigaspace's .read multiple with an empty SQL query. Let's run this. Take a look at the results. So, we are writing 10 users. ID number 7 gives us user number 7. For IDs between 3 and 5, you will see users 4, 5, and 3, and all users give us all 10 users. Let's go back to the UI. Back to the main grid. Now we see that we have 10 entries in the space. You see that the type user is now registered in the space and that there are 10 users in the space. The ID routing and indexes we've defined. You can actually see all the properties. Groups is a collection, ID is an integer, etc., etc. If you go back and click the type user, you'll see the actual data in the space, all 10 entries. If you drill down into the nodes, you'll see that in this node, you have all the even entries, and in the other one, we have all the odd entries. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.